training is a problem because most caregivers do not have to have a college degree or high school degree. So they aren't really trained to work with children. So there is a need for in-depth training for these people. We have the two of us for the state. We rely on people who are members of TAYC, our state organization, who do training. We have a state conference every year. There are local associations that do training for caregivers. So there is training out there, but not enough. Not enough people seek training.
Well, what about wages? Again, in terms of training, because as you indicated, some are not qualified or certified in terms of high school or college degrees. But what about wages in that respect?
We, as the caregivers, sometimes don't even make as much as parking lot attendants. They tend to make minimum wage. So it's difficult to hire people who are qualified, who have an education or have the training to do these jobs. It doesn't pay well. The benefits are not good for child care workers, and that's another area that's important that we need to work on, because we see ourselves as a profession, and I think we needed to be treated and paid as professionals.
Yeah, ours is pretty much the same way. Of course, we are able to pay a little bit more, I think, than most, because we have mechanisms in place to do COLAs raise, and we have what we call differential pay. But I want to say that we have in-house training. We have a training coordinator. Our teachers are required to either have a CDA, BS, or BA to be in the classroom. We have to maintain that, but it is tough to get them, like Carol said, at the rate of pay. We've been able to raise the pay to some degree to attract a few more people in, but it's still not where it's supposed to be or should be.
Well, do you think that the ABC bill would do anything, and how do you see that as a mechanism whereby we might be able to improve child care?
That's one of the things that the ABC bill is supposed to do, is to help increase wages and salaries for child care workers. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that it passes.
Very good. Now, we've mentioned Head Start and as a component, really, of some kind of national child care program. But now there are also other programs that will deal with youngsters who are of child care age that are also operated by the Metro Action Commission. Are there not, Mr. Hunt?
Well, the Head Start is the basic component of the child. But when we get past the Head Start program, then we're going into families, which there and again concern a lot of children. We have the CSBG program, which is the Community Service Block Grant Program. There and again, it comes through DHS from the federal government. In that particular program, we'll pay medical bills for the elderly or handicapped, or we will pay transportation for the homeless. We transition the homeless back into the workforce. Say, for instance, a homeless person got a job and they moved into a house, but they need that deposit to move in there. We'll pay that deposit. We'll pay utility bills such as water, and then we have what they call the LEAP, the Low Income Energy Assistance Program. There and again comes through DHS from the federal government. We can pay up to $200 on an energy bill, be it coal, wood, kerosene, or gas or electric. And right now we're in the peak season where we're beginning to pay those bills, but all we do is certify them. And once we certify them, then we send all that information to the state, and the state reviews it, and once they are satisfied with it, then they'll cut a check and send to that vendor who provides the service for the person. So we touch children and families.
That's what I was thinking now, even though we're talking about child care as such, but anything that can be done in order to improve the status of the family would almost automatically help the status of the child, would it not?
Absolutely, because if you can get the family stabilized, then of course the child's going to be better off. Ironic that you should mention that. I just had a meeting yesterday with Sheriff Hank Hillen. We discovered, looking at the percentages of the ethnic background or the race of our program, the race of the people in jail, the race of the people in juvenile court, there is a very strong relationship, a correlation in the percentages. There's also a correlation into where they came from. So there is such a strong correlation between those three factions that we are getting together and comparing notes to see what we can do between juvenile, because see, when I get them, they're at the first stage. When Judge Andy Shukoff get them, they're the second stage. And when Sheriff Hank Hillen get them, they're in the third and final stage.
And so you're talking about child care, juveniles, and finally adults, all involved in the other side of the law, so to speak, in terms of juvenile and adults.
But we are talking about some of the same people coming from the same area.
And so perhaps if we can head them off, perhaps at
through
your
education.
area.
Right. If children get quality programming at a very young age, there is less problem. There are less problems in terms of juvenile delinquency.
Absolutely.
It seems that we have a very difficult time, Mrs. SArrington, getting that point across to people. I know personally we've talked about that, and we've often used the phrase "pay me now or pay me later," which is to say that people who are incarcerated in the state prison will cost us much more annually per person than perhaps to do Head Start or daycare. Yet and still it seems to be a very, very difficult proposition for some people to understand. Now, what are we doing on the state in terms of new programs and whatnot that would sort of help to deal with that?
Well, I guess one of the things that we're doing is that we have some exciting programs, and one is the child care resource and referral system. Parents have a real hard time finding daycare, and we have a program, a computerized program that helps parents find care for their children in their area. And I want people to have that number, so if they do need to find child care, they can call the number.
Why don't you give us that number?
Okay, the local number is 741-0290, and the Watts line or 1-800 number is 1-800-462-8261. And we have several people there who can help you. This is for across the state, not just here locally in Nashville.
So if any person has a problem in terms of the need for child care or to become involved in any program, they can simply get in touch with that number.
Persons at this number, and not only do they give you that information, but they tell you what to look for when you're looking at daycare, what kinds of questions to ask, and what to be aware of in terms of problem areas. It also helps parents who have children with handicapping conditions. That's a real need, and there isn't a lot of daycare for them, but they will help find it if it's available in the area.
Very good. We've got about 2 minutes left, Walter. What would you say this morning in terms of trying to increase the amount of support that we get for Head Start? And I say that primarily because, as you indicated earlier, that the government itself feels that Head Start is one of the best kept secrets in terms of all of our social programs. How can we convince people of the importance of Head Start? And as a person who's been involved with the government as well as with the Head Start program for the longest, what could you say that could perhaps convince somebody this morning of the importance of such programs? And after which Ms. Arrington will also give us a response.
Well, you said something that really I've thought about quite often. You see, I believe in preventive. You take a child, you can actually direct them in a direction that they need to go. Children with no direction tend to go the way they want to go. And I've always said, and I'll still say it just makes sense to me that if it takes $2,045 to develop a child, and that child don't get developed, and later on you got to pay $20,000 annual in the state prison, it just makes sense to me that we need to put our resources together very, very early. I don't believe that it's necessary that we create a lot of new programs, because it reminds me of the Bordeaux dump. You're putting another layer of garbage up on top of another layer of garbage. So let's take a look at what we got and make that work in the most sensible manner.
Very good. And let me thank both of you for coming by this morning and giving us this very, very important information, because we know that we've only had 30 minutes, but nevertheless, I think that people will have a better idea of what we're trying to do in the state of Tennessee to deal with child care. And let me encourage you again to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments.